Wednesday, August 26th, 2020. We have another episode we're going to bring to you. I'm excited to have our guest who's chiming in from San Francisco. His name is Vikhyat Chaudhry. He's the co-founder and chief technology officer and chief operating officer at Buzz Solutions. Welcome, Vic, to the show. I also want to welcome my co-host today, Mariel Navarro, who is in Chihuahua, Mexico. Hi, Mariel. Welcome back to the show. Good to have you again.
Hi, Tulio.
Thank you. Thank you, Tulio.
Excellent.
Really great to be here.
Good to have you here. So before we get started with the topic today, which I think is going to be an interesting topic, we're talking about AI and the impact that can have on energy. It's probably a hot topic, pun intended, because of the heat waves we've had here in California and some of the rolling blackouts. A lot of people are probably curious, why does that happen and how can we avoid that? But before we go into that, let's get to know you a little bit, Vic. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Vikhyat Chaudhry, one of the co-founders and chief technology officer and chief operating officer at Buzz Solutions. And my background has been in energy systems, energy engineering, clean tech, and power engineering, power systems, and application and cross-section of data science, AI, and machine learning for those sectors, specifically in smart grid technologies, demand response, energy efficiency. So very focused on those specific verticals. But I completed my master's from Stanford University, and I focused solely on energy and the cross-section of data science and AI for that field. And prior to that, I was working at Cisco Systems for 3 years. I was leading projects and teams in machine learning AI divisions at Cisco Systems, kind of transitioned that skill set back to my master's degree at Stanford, got back to my energy roots and my background. And ever since then, graduated from Stanford and started working at Buzz, where I co-founded the company with my co-founder.
Okay, so tell us, what is Buzz Solution? What gave birth to this idea? What was it that you and your co-founder were sitting around? How did this come up? And it's like, let's do this. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be and what you guys do.
Definitely. So it started off from my background in energy and usage of AI for that field. So even during my undergrad degree, I migrated over here to US in 2015 for my grad school at Stanford, and in India I was working on related topics in energy. So definitely was a lot of cross section over there, and I was very interested when I was in India that there is such a huge scope for working in the energy sector, and I've been passionate about that, especially clean tech and how we can change the energy sector and the problems that they are facing with cutting edge technologies, innovative technologies like AI, machine learning, and other software, digital transformation technologies. So definitely when I came to Stanford, I was very interested and was part of the whole ecosystem of clean tech and energy, and started working with my research advisor, who was working with actually drones to inspect wind turbines and optimize their locations. So that project was sponsored by ARPA-E and PG&E, and I got involved in that and started leading that project with my research advisor. And we kind of developed this technology on how to inspect the wind turbines and see if there's any faults on them or if there's damage, and also optimize their locations using AI predictive machine learning models. And after I was doing that and building that technology, I got introduced to this course, Launchpad type course at Stanford, which was primarily focused on entrepreneurship in the realm of energy and sustainable techniques and methodologies. And that's where I met my co-founder, Caitlin Albertoli. And we started, I discussed this idea that I had developed with my research and this technology, and she was very enthusiastic in the energy field also. She had background in sustainable food. So there was a very good mix and complementary kind of skill set that we had. And that's where we got this technology, discussed this idea, and then started talking to power utilities and power companies. So we interviewed around 35, 36 power utilities, just cold emailed them, cold called them, and we discussed, and we told them that, hey, we have this technology that can help you, and what are your problems regarding that? So every single one of them told that they are conducting a lot of inspections on power lines and power infrastructure, but they don't have that software capability to manage all that data that's coming in and also process all that data that's coming in from these in-field inspections and maintenance processes. And when they got to know about that we are working on this technology, they were very excited. They said that this is a burning need, definitely, no pun intended over there. But as the wildfire season is ramping up in California too, so they were very excited about that, and that's when we decided that we will, we will go ahead with Buzz and commercialize this technology.
Great, congratulations. So let's go right into the topic today. Marielle, could you please introduce the topic Vic has chosen for today and the question that we're going to be answering?
Sure, Toya. Well, today's topic is how can AI and software help in preventing power outages, forced power shutdowns, climate change effects, and wildfires for power grid infrastructure. So,
that's a mouthful.
Can you please explain?
Yeah.
Definitely, a lot of buzzwords in there.
Yeah, I think it's quicker if we say monitoring the energy infrastructure using AI and software. That would be like.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely I can highlight a little more on that. A lot of buzzwords, and we are seeing that they are ramping up in the energy sector, energy with power utilities. They are exploring new technologies, whether it be autonomous drones, software, AI, to monitor their infrastructure. As you are well aware, the infrastructure, power infrastructure is aging, and there needs to be a digital transformation that takes place where you are able to maintain that infrastructure and repair the problems happening before they happen. So and a lot of those problems are related to damaged components, electrical components, insulators, conductors, and vegetation encroaching on power lines, overheating. Those kind of factors do lead to power outages and in extreme cases wildfires, as we've seen in California recently. So that's where we are plugging in with our solution on AI front and software front to help them manage all of that data that they're capturing.
Now, Vic, I'm curious, and I'm curious for good reason. In the energy field, in the oil business, they have adopted sensors and so that they can do predictive analytics around things like weather pattern, tremors, things of that sort that could have catastrophic impact to an oil rig, for example, right? So they're a little bit ahead of the curve than they were years ago in terms of monitoring that. In farming, you have, at least I'm familiar with apple farming. There you have thousands of acres that get monitored with drones that literally fly over those fields and can look at different variations of leaf colors to determine disease or problems in order to effectively salvage a crop, right, or avoid issues. So even in farming, there's advanced uses of drones and analytics and AI that are helping to basically avoid waste. Why is it a challenge in the energy space? I mean, we talk about so many wildfires we've had in Southern California or in California, period, where because some power pole fell down, right? Why isn't there a way to monitor that the same way and proactively get ahead of it so that, you could determine there's a lot of brush around this pole. Maybe we need to go cut that down. What's the hurdle there to make this happen, in your opinion?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a great question. We have seen with utilities and power companies how they are ramping up on those inspection and maintenance processes now, and that's where there is the need of the software technology and AI technology over there. The challenge is, as you've seen in oil gas, they are ahead of the curve with that, and even in ag tech, they're ahead of the curve than the utility and electrical power sector, is because the data is very proprietary. First of all, the data is very proprietary when we're dealing with electrical power infrastructure, and utilities don't really share that data with anyone. It's very highly confidential data. And since we are developing AI, data is the fuel to AI. So getting the right data is definitely very necessary. But even before that are the processes in terms of mileage of these power lines, so transmission lines, distribution lines, and so much variability in where they're deployed. A lot of them are deployed in remote regions, and a lot of them are deployed in the city. So deploying sensors on all of them is actually very costly to go ahead. So that's where there is a need of aerial vehicles. So whether it be drones, helicopters, we are seeing utilities, ramping up on drone inspections even more now, with drone technology becoming more accessible and impactful, and even fixed wing aircraft. So we are seeing now that there's a lot of data being captured, and that's coming back. The challenge is definitely in how we can make sense out of that data. And that's where we are, that's the lack in this industry, and that's where we're trying to plug in to make sense out of that data, to process all that data. And even as you were talking about predictive capabilities, predictive maintenance, predictive inspections, that's where we are heading towards now. Since we are getting so much data from multiple channels, we are building these predictive models that can decide and predict how climate patterns and weather patterns are impacting these physical infrastructures and how they're causing damage to them. So we have built a machine that feeds in all these factors and can result in giving out results that help manage or forecast if there's a problem going to happen.
So I'm curious. I know my teammates have a question, but I've got another one burning if you guys don't mind, very quickly. So what I heard is the data is available because these are private institutions providing power. The collaboration isn't always there, which is kind of a shame because they're serving the public. So in the interest of the public, are there any legislature changes coming that could encourage, dare I say force, but definitely encourage more collaboration to better serve the public? Because ultimately it affects all of us. It's not about who owns what. It is how the services we get. Are you seeing more collaboration as time is going by, as this technology becomes more available? And how are those rules being written so that, there's still competitive advantages for each of those companies, but still some form of collaboration? Are you seeing that? And what's going on there?
Yeah, definitely. We are seeing a lot of collaboration happen, as we have seen in recent cases with the wildfires and the power outages, that there is a big need to implement innovative technology to handle these problems, and that is coming from the top, from regulatory commissions that are mandating even power utilities to do even more inspections and incorporate these innovative technologies and solutions into their system that can prevent these major disasters from happening. So definitely we are seeing going ahead a lot of collaboration happen between utilities, which are our end customers, and even companies that are working in the space. And some of them are very heavyweight companies that are exploring opportunities, and we are partnering with those enterprise corporations also. So definitely now this sector is at that point where collaboration is the key. And building on top of that collaborative efforts in terms of whether it be data exchange, whether it be technologies like AI getting implemented or adopted into these systems, we are seeing that a lot now as compared to what we were seeing like 15 years ago, when everything was very manual, very kind of prehistoric, very little software penetration. But now we are seeing a lot of collaborative efforts happening.
Vic, I have a question, and well, like I said at the beginning, before we went on the air, please bear with me because I clearly stated that I'm not an expert in technology and engineering. But from the user standpoint, from the average user standpoint, well, what I'm hearing is that you're talking about utilities, you're talking about certain entities that deal with a lot of very, very sensitive information. And now that we're bringing AI into the equation, well, I'm curious to ask you, in this context, what role does AI or your value proposition play in, let's say, reducing or keeping the cost of data management to a minimum, and also maybe facilitate regulatory reporting, things like that? Is there any way that you can comment on that?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a great question. In terms of our value proposition, as I highlighted, the first ones are cost. We are cutting down a lot of operational costs for these utilities by automating the process of processing this data. And even time, it takes, on an average, a utility 6 to 8 months to manually analyze all that data that is captured in the field. And what happens is that in that 6 to 8 months, the data becomes outdated and a major calamity can happen. For example, a power shutdown or even wildfire can start. And that's some of the few very key ROIs that we are bringing and key metrics we are bringing. But Even beyond that is the capability of helping them manage the data, because there is, as I was highlighting, there is a data issue in this sector where the data is siloed because it's so proprietary, and that data can never leave, either their firewalls or their storage instances. And that's where we're also plugging in to be that central hub, that one-stop shop that can facilitate different data coming from different channels and break those silos, and can provide a lot of operational efficiency for utilities, because once they have everything in one place. And for example, we have actually talked to some of the utilities that are still storing their data in VHS tapes and hard drives, which is so prehistoric to what we are dealing with right now, which is cloud-based infrastructure. So we are trying to bring that digital transformation to the utilities, provide that central hub capability to scalably manage, process, analyze data, and then deliver insights to not only to utilities, but also regulatory commissions to say that, hey, these are the regions where the problems can happen or have been happening. So take some actions on that. And that is the great value proposition to the utilities.
Perfect. Excellent. Mariel, do you have anything?
Yeah, I actually have a very general question. To be honest, this is the first time that I hear about a system used to monitor power infrastructure systems. Can you tell us in a high level how does this work? Like, do you use any sort of device attached to the infrastructure, or drones, or how does all this comes together?
Definitely, yes, I can definitely explain on that. So utilities, our customers, power companies, they're already doing inspections using either drones, helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, even linemen with static cameras that are going out in the field on a regular basis and collecting data. And just to give a sense of the data, some of our customers are collecting millions of visual data points, images in the field every year. And when that comes back, it's very siloed. It's very hard to manage for the utilities. And once that data is coming from different channels and sources, that's where we're plugging in. So we have a software platform. First of all, what it does is that it takes data from different channels, maps them to their specific territory, and geo maps for the utilities to easily manage them in one place. And then once that is done, we provide our AI machine vision. We call it our AI, we call Power AI, which is fault detection AI that finds faults on these components. For example, insulators, conductors that are deployed on these towers. So if there's overheating in them, if there's damage or contamination or flashing on those, and even vegetation, and if vegetation is encroaching on highly energized voltage lines, we flag those instances too. And once that processing of all these millions of images have been done, we report all these insights and results to our end customers to take some actions on them. And we recommend actions, but in the end, we still give the human in the loop that power to go in and check if there's any problem or not, and take a necessary action on that. So that is kind of our whole end-to-end full solution that helps them to, again, streamline their operations and maintain their infrastructure.
It's actually quite interesting. I must say that, well, nowadays we're very dependent on energy, and along the IoT revolution that we're having right now, this is like definitely a must. We cannot be without power. Right now, well, do you see this solution as something that could be used at a domestic level? Nowadays there's a lot of people implementing solar panels in their homes. Do you see this as something that can be used for that, for monitoring this kind of domestic environments?
Yes, so it's great that you brought it up. Our vision for Buzz is to safeguard the world's energy infrastructure. And we're starting off with the electrical power industry, electrical infrastructure that delivers power to our homes. That needs to be managed and maintained. But we want to go ahead from there and use our technology to actually manage the clean energy resources that are coming up. So in the next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of penetration of solar panels. Not only residential solar panels, but utility scale solar panels that they deploy on a grid level, and wind turbines. And we definitely see the application of this technology to maintain those and protect them using the capabilities and solutions we have created. and not only to manage them, but also be predictive in our approach as we get in more data from different sensors, whether it be weather conditions, how they're impacting seasonal patterns, how they're impacting these infrastructures, whether it be solar panels, wind turbines, or power infrastructure. And even going beyond, we want to leverage smart meter data also that is coming from homes, and voltage and current waveforms that are flowing in these lines, that can help determine when there is a strain on the grid that can cause even more further damage to the infrastructure. So there are a lot of avenues that we have in our roadmap that we want to scale up and deploy our technology for. And we're starting out with power because that's a really big market, and a big burning need is there right now, as we're seeing a lot of problems happen on the grid. But definitely we are planning to expand to other verticals too.
Vic, I have another question. Actually, two, and then I'll pass it on to Tulio or Mariel. We're talking about how AI and software help in preventing power outages, forced power shutdowns, climate change effects, wildfires. So, I mean, the angle that we're covering is very interesting because we're talking about infrastructure. But from my standpoint, there's also another component that we haven't really touched on, which is the end user. I mean, like the average person, like myself or somebody else, anybody, there's also a component of becoming aware of that some of these things can be preventable. We never know, or to a certain extent, it can be preventable. For example, I as a user, I can have maybe something that's maybe something on my telephone, my smartphone, or on my computer, or on my Internet of Things house or something. And so, what is AI's role and software's the role of software in helping users, average people, becoming aware of what they need to do to prevent all these things? Or in other words, how can they become aware of the part that they need to play in preventing climate change, power shutdowns, wildfires? I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas at you so that you can try to convey my angle here. I don't know if you can comment on that.
Definitely, yes. So I think a lot of people don't know how much effort and how much operations go into the grid infrastructure, and what's happening behind going above the residential meters. And because the normal user, even myself, we know that, hey, we plug in our charging and into the electrical plug in our homes, and we get electricity. But there's so much more happening behind that how this electricity is delivered to us, that the common person doesn't know a lot on. So we start off with electricity generation that happens in generation power plants or renewable energy resources, and then the electricity travels down and gets transmitted and delivered to our homes through the physical infrastructure, these towers, transmission towers, distribution poles. And a lot of people don't understand that these get damaged more frequently than we expect, and because of physical conditions. And we're calling these physical conditions climatic conditions, seasonal patterns that happen. And in recent cases, in recent years, we've seen how climate change is impacting the weather patterns and seasonal patterns, and it definitely has a lot of impact on this physical infrastructure. We're seeing droughts and heat waves in California that is impacting the electrical infrastructure. We're seeing hurricane and storm surges in the rest of the country, Midwest or East Coast, which is a big problem on the critical infrastructure that is deployed and that is powering our homes. And that's where technology can play. We believe technology can play a big role in understanding, and the common person understands how technology can help in this, which we are trying to convey to people, is that AI definitely has that capability, or software has that capability to help streamline these operations that customer or utilities are performing in the field, which is very beneficial for the end customer to get electricity into their homes. And as we see going towards more renewable, clean energy sources, that's going to put even more stress on the grid infrastructure. As we're seeing, there's going to be power outages, there's going to be strain on the infrastructure due to overheating in the components. And that's where AI perfectly fits over there to automate that process. Because again, we have so much penetration on the grid and the grid is expanding. AI can definitely help automate and streamline these operations. And it's hard to explain to common person what impact that AI brings, but that impact is definitely correlated to what the common person gets at their homes: continued constant stream of electricity, no power shutdowns, and in some extreme conditions, no wildfires. And that is where we want to fit ourselves in there.
Great, thank
Well,
you, Vic.
Vic, it's been great to have you. We're coming up on time. It sounds as though what would help is certainly a lot more collaboration between utilities to share data with the interest of avoiding some of these disasters, which will not only benefit them, but definitely will benefit the public and the rest of us. And education certainly helps a lot in terms of consumers being aware of how we consume energy and the impact we're having on the demands for energy and how that trickles down. So providing that kind of insight and that kind of education where we could become more empowered to make better choices, certainly I think will help. There's a lot to be done in this space, and it's clear that it can't be done with just human intervention, because otherwise you need armies of people to provide this kind of insight, which is clearly something AI solves. It's there to help us to automate and speed up and, where appropriate, replicate thousands of potential individuals that would otherwise be needed to analyze massive amounts of data. So kudos to you for building that. We wish you a lot of success with that, and hope that the utilities that are listening that don't have this kind of capability, or definitely are planning to have this capability, they should reach out to you guys and take advantage of what you have to offer. One final question as we go away. Building this business as an entrepreneur, this journey you're going through, what's that been like for you? Anything you've learned about yourself in this process?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm a first-time founder, so we've started this business 2017, summer 2017, and we're almost at 3 years now. Definitely a lot of learnings, not only about the business and the industry, but also about yourself. Persistence is the key. I would say keep persisting, keep making the efforts in this space. As long as you're making those efforts, results would come. But even when we were building this company, we had this vision that we're creating a social impact on society. And we were helping an old industry become more efficient, and helping, and that impacts the common person. A lot of people don't understand that, but that really impacts the common person, how the operations are happening or getting streamlined at utilities. So we definitely pride ourselves in creating a social, positive social impact, but also internally as a team, as a company culture, we pride ourselves in our diversity. So we do want to build a very diverse team. We currently have our engineers. We are very engineering heavy, but our team is pretty diverse. Both the founders are minority. Both me and my founder are minority founders, and even our investors, some of our investors pride themselves in investing in diverse teams and diverse founders. And that has really helped going forward. As we're seeing in the world right now, there is definitely a need for diversity, inclusion in workplace, and we pride ourselves with our company culture regarding that.
Well, congratulations. It's been great to have you with us. And just stay with us as we go off the air so we can wrap up. But before we do that, we've got one more show tomorrow on Thursday. Carlos, what do we got coming up?
Sure, Tulio. Tomorrow we will be speaking with James Briggs. He is the CEO and founder of AI Collaborator, and the topic is going to be collaborative enterprise AI. So that's another AI-filled conversation, just like the many we've had recently, fortunately. So that's it. Collaborative enterprise AI, right here on Dojo Live at 1 p.m. Pacific, folks. So please join us tomorrow.